So you guys probably heard about the company that posted some job opening on Indeed and said that they were only looking for white applicants, right? Now, this is the thing. Is anybody really surprised to hear about this? Because I really don't think anybody is. I say this all the time. There's no way I can see XYZ, but nobody else can see it. So if I'm sitting here next to somebody and I see something happen, there's no way that that person has their eyes open and they're looking in the same direction as me and they didn't see it. It's not a thing, right? I'm saying this to say, black people have been talking about this, right? Have you noticed how a lot of black people, like myself, have stereotypically white sounding names? I wonder why. Because it's certainly not because white names are just so much cuter and so much better, right? It's because white people stigmatize our names to the degree where it makes life so much harder for us, and it's easier to just give your kids a white name so they can have an easier time in life, right? White people have done this for so long, and in this context with jobs and stuff like this, right? If they see your resume and they see a stereotypically black name like, oh, Shaniqua or Tyrone or something, they're going to chuck your resume straight into the trash. You will never get a call back. That is the facts. Black people have been talking about this for a very long time, and white people, of course, as usual, have gaslit us. Oh, dog diggity, there's equality now. Slavery's over, my homie. Yo, it's illegal to discriminate. They sit there and they usually discriminate in secret, right? So 99.999% of the time, they won't come right out and say, oh, we only want white applicants, right? No, they won't do that. Instead, they'll post a job and they won't say anything about, oh, white or black applicants or anything like that, right? Instead, when you apply to the job and you have a clearly non-white sounding name, they'll just throw your resume out. And the same thing has been achieved. Now, have black people not been saying this forever? Have we not been saying, oh, white people discriminate against us in hiring practices? Like, I kid you guys not. I applied for a job back in 2022. It has not even been, or was it 2021? It was 2021. Okay. It has not even been 3 years yet because it was July of 2021, right? I applied for a job. And when you look at my resume, you would not assume that I am black because I have a very white sounding name. My name is Rachel Smith, right? And on my resume, I have a chemistry degree and this, that, and so and so and so, right? So I applied for this job and I was called in for an interview. And when I went into this place, I noticed there were no black people there, okay? There were no black people. It was all white people and Asians, okay? But I was like, all right, whatever. This is a city with not a lot of black people, so all right, maybe that's why there's no black people working here, right? So I sit down to have this interview, right? And everything's going great. In case y'all didn't know, I'm very charming. I'm a great interviewer. I'm just charming all around. Honestly, I'm just a great person, period. Like, everybody loves to talk to me because I'm just wonderful, okay? So anyway, at the end of this interview, the interviewer says, oh, let's talk about the appearance standards, right? So I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, right? Because I'm thinking that she's going to say, oh, you can't wear blue jeans to work or something like that, right? No, she literally says, no dreadlocks and no cornrows. Mind you, 3 years ago at the time, I had dreadlocks in my head, okay? So she literally looked at me with dreadlocks in my hair and said, dog diggity, no dreadlocks and no cornrows. And I just looked back at her and I said, you don't say, right? So I went and I sued the corporation, right? And somehow I lost. That's beyond me to this day, right? But I spoke to my dad about it. He said, you're not supposed to listen to what the EEOC says because they always on the side of the corporations, whatever, right? But my point is this, right? They called me in for an interview because they didn't realize I was black, right? If I had applied to that job with a black sounding name, I would not have gotten an interview, right? So when I came in there and they realized I was black, they had to find another way to basically say, no niggers allowed. So they switched to no dreadlocks and no cornrows. Now, technically, you could say, well, dreadlocks and cornrows, they're just a hairstyle. Anyone could have dreadlocks or cornrows, because I promise you, white people are going to come to the comments and they're going to say that, right? But we all know good and well which group of people has dreadlocks and cornrows. That's like me sitting here saying, no string bean casseroles. We all know good and well which group of people eat string meat casseroles for lunch. We all know good and well if I were to say that I'm targeting a specific group of people, right? So you sitting here talking about no dreadlocks and no cornrows when those are hairstyles that only one group of people wears. The rest of y'all just started wearing them last week, okay? Those are not like historical or cultural hairstyles within your culture, right? We all know good and well that's another way of saying no N-words without saying no N-words so that you can hopefully not be sued. Like, be for real. Now, let's get into the comments. So a white guy commented and said, the company should be allowed to hire any race that they prefer. And out of 17 reactions to his comment, 15 were likes, 2 were laugh reacts, right? And this is my thing. There were people in the comments who were commenting and saying things like, oh yeah, it's only okay to hire certain races and ethnicities when it's black people. Oh, black people can have black owned businesses, so and so and so, yada yada yada, but we can't do this, right? And I'm flabbergasted. But this stupidity almost kind of makes sense. Now don't get me wrong. White people play dumb. They definitely play dumb. They know what's going on, right? But some of them are legitimately dumb as a pile of bricks. And it's done by design. It's done on purpose because you look around and white people are hooting and hollering about critical race theory being taught in schools. Dog, diggity, I don't want my kids learning that. What is critical race theory besides literal history that has not been whitewashed? So white people are making sure that history is not taught in schools so they can paint themselves as the victims in these situations. Let me give y'all a quick little rundown, just a quick little doozy of the United States. I'm going to make it real quick because I got something to do in 9 minutes, okay? Let's start off at the beginning. We all know that black people were brought here as slaves. We know that slavery happened, right? Slavery happened for a while. And then after slavery, Jim Crow happened. There was legal segregation, right? White people had their schools and black people were forced to create our own, right? And then after Jim Crow, technically segregation was made illegal on the books, right? But if we look around, I mean, did that ever actually really happen? Because when you look at pretty much everything, it's pretty much all still white. Like a couple years ago, I worked as a bartender at the Detroit Yacht Club. The Detroit Yacht Club is like 99% white, even though it's in Detroit. Like, huh? Right? And then when you look at the history of the Detroit Yacht Club, they didn't have a black member until something ridiculous. Like it was something very recent that they did not have a single black member. And finally, they were threatened by, I don't know if it was the city or the state or something. And whoever it was like, y'all gotta let some black people in or else we shutting this motherfucker down because clearly y'all are racist, quite clearly, right? So white people do they damnness to have whites only spaces, right? And in return, black people respond and say, okay, well, since we can't be in y'all space, we'll create our own space. Say black people responded by creating a black version of the Detroit Yacht Club, right? Then white people would turn around and say, well, golly gee, the blacks can do it, so why can't we? Did this whole thing not start because of you? Like, what are you saying? These people made sure that they created whites only everything. Schools, businesses, movie theaters, playgrounds, everything, right? And then when black people respond and say, okay, well, since we can't be a part of your stuff, we'll make our own stuff for black people, right? You know, we'll build our own schools and stuff. Then suddenly white people are like, well, golly gee, this is unfair. Well, since you can do it, then I can do it. And it's like, you started this. What are you talking about, right? But let's get to what the actual issue is here, right? The actual issue is the fact that these people believe that black people shouldn't have shit. So they believe that when they deny us access to something, that should be it. When they say, oh, you can't come into our grocery store, we should starve and die, right? They don't believe that we should have the ability to say, okay, well, we can't go into your grocery store. We'll build our own and we'll grow our own fruit and that'll be fine, right? They believe that when they say that we can't have something, that should be it. That should be it. We should just be suffering and begging for a seat at their table and just drop dead from lack, right? That is why they get upset when they say that we don't want any black people around. And then black people respond with, okay, well, I'll create my own XYZ. And then suddenly it's, but how do you get to do that? Like, what? Listen to these people when they talk. Study your enemies, okay? Actually pay attention to what they are saying, right? They will sit there and say, oh, people should be allowed to hire whatever race they want, right? And then they will stand on that. They will say, oh, we only hiring white people, so get out of here, nigga. And then they will get mad when black people respond and say, okay, well, I'll open my own business and I'll open my own grocery store and I'll open my own XYZ and we'll create a whole black Wall Street. We don't need you, right? Then as soon as we do that, suddenly they like, oh, whoa, no, let's integrate, because this is the bottom line. At the end of the day, they need us. The only way that they can be at the top of the pedestal is if there is a bottom, right? These people need us to be a permanent underclass in this country. That is why they are so threatened when black people don't just suffer and die and vanish off of the face of the earth when they deny us something. They are so threatened by the fact that we say, okay, that's cool, we'll just create our own stuff, right? Because they need us, not the other way around.